So I was just going to take you back in time a little bit to when I was a kid. I used to go down to the harbor in New Harbor and hang out at the co-op. My brother and I would take our fishing lines and go down and hang out with the old guys at the fishing co-op, and we would bother them, and they would kind of keep an eye on us. And they told us lots of old stories and songs. And I was about 5 when I was doing this, and realized that it was something I really wanted to pay attention to. And Fred heard songs from his grandfather out in the lumber woods, so he was inspired as well. But all of those songs were unaccompanied. There were no instruments, there were no fiddles, there were no harmonicas even, just voices singing. So we're going to start with an a cappella song dedicated to those guys. This is a song I wrote.
Those guys were real lovers of art and the fine things of life.
That's right.
There were posters of beautiful women in the Fisherman's Co-op.
Yes.
And also a poster that said, "Cows may come and cows may go, but the bull in here goes on forever." So
it was great, yeah. So there were 4 of them. There was Julian Beale, Manley Gilbert, Frankie Osier, who was my great uncle, and Paul Riley. So this is for them. And you're welcome to join us singing.
Oh, what has become of the old liars all? Julian and Manley and Frankie and Paul. Down at the co-op when fish weren't so few, they'd lie through their teeth and they'd swear it was true. On warm afternoons in the summer we'd go with handline and bucket to the harbor below, to the dock with the rope and the chains and the spars, where the weathered old plank smelled of bait and of tar. The fish house was piled high with old fishing gear and a sign that said something about all the bull here. In a big leather armchair, a white-haired old man would give us a soda and a handful of clams.
Oh, what has become of the old liars all? Julian and Manley and Frankie and Paul. Down at the co-op when fish weren't so few, they'd lie for their teeth and they'd swear it was true.
Sometimes there were others who sat in the shack just telling us stories of fishing way back when the weather was better or worse than right now. They always would say it was bigger somehow. They'd tell of the days when they hauled traps by hand out in their dories away from the land. In the winter they'd row till their hands would turn blue, and some of the stories you knew could be true.
Oh, what has become of the old liars all? Julian and Manley and Frankie and Paul. Down at the co-op when fish weren't so few, they'd lie through their teeth and they'd swear it was true.
But then they'd continue with never a smile and tell of the day when they rode 50 miles, blinded by fog banks and capsized by storms, then rescued by mermaids with gold on their arms. Then there was the one about the fisherman's ghost, doomed to eternity cause of a boast. His coming would warn all the sailors of gales. The wilder the weather, the stranger their tales.
Oh, what has become of the old liars all? Julian and Manley and Frankie and Paul. Down at the co-op when fish weren't so few, they'd lie through their teeth and they'd swear it was true.
Then we'd run down the gangplank and bait up our lines and drop the weight down where the flounder are fine. We'd wait for that tug that sometimes never came, so we'd go up and bother the old men again. Well, now that they're gone, I feel empty inside, though people will tell me their jaw was all lies. Their tales were as true as the tide and the breeze. My children will never hear stories like these. Oh, what has become of the old liars all? Julian and Manley and Frankie and Paul. Down at the co-op when fish weren't so few, they'd lie through their teeth and they'd swear it was true. The Old Liars.
All right, thank you.
Well, this next song was collected by from Susie Carr Young from Brewer, Maine in 1925. She called it The Sailors Come All Ye, which is probably not the name it had, but that's what she called it, so that's what it is in the books.
And we can trace its origins back to the 1600s, when there were all these songs about sailors and how great it was to be a sailor, and girls, make sure you marry a sailor because they're honest and they make plenty of money, and those farmers, forget about the farmers. And there are all these songs that show up in these traditional repertoire that echo that story. So this one's called The Sailors Come All Ye.
Oh, come all ye pretty fair maids, if you did but know all the dangers and the hardships that sailors undergo, you would have better regard for them than e'er you had before, and hate the lazy landsman who's always on the shore. They are always with the pretty girls and telling them fine tales concerning all the hard day's work they've done in their cornfields. It's pulling off the weeds and grass, it's all that they do know, while we, like jovial seamen boys, go plow the ocean through. And when the sun it does go down the side, they'll throw a plow, saying our day's work is ended, boys, it's homeward we'll go now. And when the night gets dark as pitch, into their bed they'll crawl, while we, like jovial seamen boys, stand many a bitter squall. Oh, when 8 o'clock it does come round, the wind begins to blow. Our captain, he commands us all there from down below. All there from down below, me boys, prepare our ship to ride. Aloft, ye lively lads, and down to Gansel yard. Oh, the seas, they run mountains high and toss us up and down. In the midst of all these dangers, boys, we're feared our ship will drown. But don't let that discourage us, boys, we'll see the girls again. For the might of all America will cross the raging Maine. Oh, we'll sail to all parts of the world that's never seen before, and we'll bring back gold and silver, boys, that's when we do return. We'll make this country flourish, boys, like it never did before. And when our money's spent and gone, we'll plow the seas for more.